And we are live. We are a minute early. My name's Tommo, and this is the 2023 post-race Chinwag for the US Grand Prix. Roll intro. We're going early. We're not messing around today. We're going to get through this quickly because we are on the brink right now. Today has been a day. All right? I'm sitting, working, doing some bits for a video that's going to come out hopefully tomorrow. That was the plan anyway, but maybe not now. And all of a sudden, bing, oh, battery's low. Oh, my charger stopped working. Where is it? Where is the absolute, this stops working, right? Guess what's coming tomorrow? A brand new laptop. I ordered a new laptop. I've had this one for almost 3 years. It's coming tomorrow. If that had held on for 24 more hours, then I wouldn't have even known, right? It wouldn't have happened. So I've had to delay the stream. I had to go into town. I've got a tiny little battery that's just about holding on. So if I do randomly die, okay, at some point, then you know why. The laptop's decided to. It's not charging, but it's holding on for dear life. And I think we're going to be okay. Welcome to the stream, everyone. Sorry that was a bit frantic. We're going to get through this thick and fast because I don't want it to die at any second, okay? Ideally not, but there you go. And don't worry, a Mac will not sort my problems, Ben. Charger is clanger of the century. I've had this almost 3 years. The day before my new laptop arrives, it decides to. Honestly, yeah, it should be disqualified. I agree, chat. I agree. Jared, Mahad, Mizik, Tiago, Professor Z, Jamie, Carlos, Rex, Racing Guy, William, Panokan, Evan, Eggy, Yard Animal, Geordie, Kev, Tina, Carol, Liam, Bismarck, Joshua, Saya, Ben, Callum, David, Halita, Danny, Louisa, Charmander, Daddy, Fett. I agree with you all. But anyway, right. Let's crack on, because don't you worry, we've got a good race to talk about, chat. Give me your race rating out of 10, please, and thank you. And while you're thinking about that, do remember that this will be live on, not live, it will go live after. This is live on YouTube. It will be going on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. I know some of you just listen, right? You don't want to look at my face, and that's all good, right? I'm open to all and everyone. Boom. Right. Cool. So you can do that if you want. If you're here YouTube live, thank you very much for joining me. If you're here after the fact also, thank you very much for joining me. Lots of 6s, lots of 7s, lots of 8s. Let's get a poll going. Race rating. Also, I can't use my keyboard, my external keyboard. Race rating out of 10. So I'm gonna go. Top option is going to be 9 or higher. I mean, I don't think you can give this one a 10. I don't see many people giving this a 10. 6 or lower is the lower end. Right, let me know in the poll, please, and thank you. Also, thank you, Internet Lad, for the 5 NZD. Cut to the chase, Logan Sargent got points. A point. He got a single point, didn't he? Un point. He did, finally. Let's go, Logan. What the F is a kilometre? And Jorge, thank you very much for the 5 Aussie. Tommo, I'm watching the cricket at the moment. How are you? Also, Mercedes doing a Ferrari with Lewis and Ferrari being Ferrari again. You shouldn't have gone to sleep, right? Plenty of European. I saw waking up, reacting. Should have stayed up. Man. Come on. Crazy, innit? Crazy. But fortunately, I don't really watch cricket because England are pretty washed. Cricket and rugby wise, and I don't really watch either, so I don't really mind. Right, what we're saying in the ratings, out of 10, 22% of you have gone 6 or lower, 45 have given you a 7, 29 an 8, and 3% of you have given it a 9 or above. Right, so, and also just to briefly cover, this is one of those weekends where I didn't get too mixed up with the sprint, because wasn't that the deadest sprint we've ever had? I think that is the worst sprint we've ever had. But it was a really good race. Which the questions around the sprint intensify. I think that's a fair point. You know what? Maybe because I was doing the last lap, watching live on the Last Lap YouTube channel, link in the description if you want to check that out. Doing the watch along, me, Niran, Baxty, Cameron, maybe that helped. For me, this was a fantastic 8 out of 10. This race, there was no period. There was no lull at all. There was no period of switch off. I was switched on the entire time trying to keep up with what was going on. That was a great race. Max won. And I've said this, if Max has to fight like this, okay, and it's this close, Max can win every race next year. And cool. Like, it was a great race. I'm sorry. It was one of them that, did we get much wheel-to-wheel battling? Not an exceptional amount, but because there was constantly something to think about, constantly different strategies playing out, and the crescendo at the end. If we had a battle for the end for the victory between Hamilton and Verstappen, that would have been a big juicy cherry on the top. Didn't quite get it, but for me that's an 8 out of 10 comfortably. I really enjoyed that one. And yeah, I mean, in hindsight, I'm quite glad Lewis didn't get the win, because wow, that would have been quite the reaction given what happened just a few hours after the race finished. It did take a while, didn't it, for the actual for it to come out, for the news to come out regarding certain Mr. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton being disqualified from the 2023 US Grand Prix. Damn. Race result, Hamilton, Leclerc both DQ'd. Verstappen wins. Norris, Sainz promoted to the podium. P2, P3. Both Williams in the points. Logan Sargent gets it done. Yuki Tsunoda doubles AlphaTauri's point haul this season and puts them within 2 of P9. Huge result for AlphaTauri. Huge result for Yuki Tsunoda. And I'm happy for Yuki for getting it done. Thank you again, Jorge, for the $5 Aussie. Don't want to be too spicy, but Max, Mexico race with what happened in the anthem. Yeah, so I didn't actually, I missed the anthem, but I heard about this afterwards, that Max was getting booed by some Checo fans, which I don't really have a strong opinion on booing, to be honest. I don't know. I'm a football fan. A lifelong football fan, been to many a West Ham game in my time and heard many a boo, and I don't know. For me, it's kind of, it is different context. Formula One. I don't have a massively strong opinion, but during the anthem, I mean, I haven't heard it. All I know is that people have booed Max. I haven't heard it, so I'm not really going to comment. I'm just commenting more generally on my opinion around booing. I don't really have a massive issue with it, but whatever. I wouldn't say I'm pro-boo, but I'm not anti-boo. It depends on the context of the boo, I suppose. And I mean, I've heard people saying, "Oh, it's because of a certain person who was giving the trophies out or something." Again, I don't really know. It is what it is. Everyone's got an opinion. I don't really have a particularly strong one on this. Thank you, Mandler, as well, for the 70s art. Felt like watching a chess game. The consequences of the moves that the teams were making only showed up later in the race. Shows the value of good team strategy. You know what? Like, I don't know the rules of chess. I'd love to learn. Probably, maybe one day. Yeah, exactly. You know what? Like, this is something that this sport. I mean, strategy is a component in all of motorsport, to be fair. You know, it's not just, the tyre offset of Lewis on the mediums coming through, and, not everyone is equally good. So, like, the Mercedes were particularly good on the mediums, it seemed, versus on the hards, where they weren't anything special. So, again, it's like certain cars on certain tyres are going to get certain, there's a discrepancy. If you had to run, qualifying with everyone on softs and then run it with everyone on mediums and run it with everyone on hards, I don't think it would be the same order. Certain cars will get different performance out of certain. But yeah, hards were trash for everyone, but less trash for some than others. But yeah, it was I thoroughly enjoyed that race. I thought it was a really good race. I thought it had everything, almost from a strategic point of view, it had everything. It just didn't quite have that final battle. And it just didn't quite have the battles through the field. But again, 8 out of 10. 10's a perfect race. So I was pretty chuffed with that one, to be honest, chat. To be honest. But yeah, Stroll P7, Sonoda P8, Albon Sargent, like I say, in the points. And yeah, we had, I don't know why I didn't put X's next to Alonso, Piastri and Ocon, because yeah, 3 didn't finish and then 2 were disqualified after the fact. So yeah, there we go. Good fun. Good fun. Right. Driver standings are as follows. Max extends his lead, of course, 466 points now he's on. Insane. Perez. Checo, you are a lucky boy. You are a lucky, lucky boy. He squeezed into Q3 and then recovered to P6. 2 DNFs in front of disqualifications in front of him and still didn't even get on the podium. That gap would have been 19 points. Now it's 39. So a big swing with obviously Perez gaining 2 positions through Hamilton's disqualification, Lewis losing out on the 18. But yeah, 39 points between Checo and Hamilton, which should, I think that's enough to get Checo across the line now, P2, just by the skin of his teeth. Alonso P4 holds there. Norris jumps ahead of Leclerc, 159 to 151. He was, what do you mean? Was he P5? But he only moved up to P. Oh yeah, because Leclerc was behind him, wasn't he? No, you're right. Yeah, he was P5. Leclerc was behind him, but Hamilton was in front of him, so he actually only gave 1 position. Correct, chat. Russell, he's only 8 behind Leclerc, actually, Russell, to be fair. Nothing for Piastri. Good points for Gasly and Stroll. And yeah, look at Yuki Tsunoda up there in P16 now. And Sargent with a point on the board. Finally. Cool. Not much more to say on that. And then constructors-wise, McLaren finally jump Aston Martin. We knew this was coming. It was an inevitability. But look at that battle, especially for P8. Maybe P7. Maybe we're going to talk about this tomorrow. AlphaTauri double their points from 5 to 10. Very important, that battle at the bottom. Very, very, very important. There's a lot of money on the line for those teams that really need it as well down there. But yeah, Logan Point puts them up to 26 alongside 2 points for Alex. Lovely jubbly. Happy days. Right. Bangers and clangers. I did put the poll out last night. We'll go through mine. I'm not going to go one by one. I'm just going to get through this nice and quick because I'm scared of the laptop dying. I think we're going to be okay, but I don't want to speak too soon. So, my bangers and clangers for the 2023 Austin US Grand Prix. And thank you, Leo Video Review, for the 50 DKK. Stroll finally catching the W. I don't think anyone expected him to score points after the stinker qualifying from both Astons. The Astons recovered well. Shame about Alonso retiring. Alonso did have the old spec. Stroll had the new spec. Alonso was ahead. But then he had a floor issue, I believe, which meant he was out of here. But yeah, bangers and clangers. Mine, Yuki Tsunoda, banger drive. George Russell, clanger. Banger team AlphaTauri, clanger team Ferrari. Yuki, again, doubling his team's points. This is huge. And he delivered comfortably ahead of Ricciardo. Yes, it was Ricciardo's first race back after the injury. But Yuki Tsunoda P8, even without the 2 disqualifications, still managed to get in a point and then doubled the points to make 2 points with the fastest lap as well. Excellent. Ricciardo had damage, did he? I didn't know that. What was the damage Ricciardo had? I mean, that doesn't change the fact Yuki had a great race. What was the damage that Ricciardo had? It's fine. I literally watched the post-race. I didn't see any mention of that. Massive debris in his front wing. Oh, interesting. Breakdown. Well, that explains why Ricciardo was last. But either way, Tsunoda, excellent drive from Yuki. Wonderful. Doubles his team's points. And that could be pivotal in the Constructors' Championship. And with 4 to go, you know, Yuki firing on all cylinders, and Daniel. I mean, Daniel in his first race back, he was quicker than Yuki in Hungary. It's Ricciardo on the one stop as well. AlphaTauri, man. Listen, I've given them banger team, but that is a bit of a stinker from them because I didn't realise they'd given Daniel a one stop, to be honest. Ugh. Yeah, that's not great. But look, from a constructor's point of view, AlphaTauri have put themselves right in the fight for 9th, maybe even 8th. I think they've got good momentum at the minute, right? They've got very good momentum right now. That car's clearly... I mean, the fact that Yuki was ahead enough of Albon. Yes, Albon had a 5-second penalty because of track limits, but he was ahead enough of Albon to stop for softs to go for fastest lap. Pretty impressive. It's a good sign. 4 to go. Lots of points on the board still, potentially. But yeah, big day for AlphaTauri. Big day, obviously helped by the disqualifications, but again, got to be in it to win it. Clanger drive Russell. George was just nowhere this weekend. Just generally speaking, a very messy one from George, given the pace that Lewis was showing in the race as well. You got to say, with how close they've been at times, you know, it's not a good weekend from George at all, by any stretch of the imagination. Thank you, David, by the way, for the £2 championship. Never won by 100% from P2. Well, the thing is, like, we'll see, David. We'll see about that. We will see. Clanger team as well, Ferrari. For Charles to qualify on pole and then finish 6th. He had the one stop. Obviously, Ricciardo had a one stop as well. Clearly wasn't the right choice. Ricciardo didn't qualify particularly, in an amazing position. Charles qualified on pole. So the punishment for the one stop was significantly bigger for Ferrari than it was for AlphaTauri. Although if AlphaTauri played a bit smarter, maybe Ricciardo could have been closer to the points. Mercedes Clanger. It's hard because you've got to give credit to Mercedes for giving Lewis the car to fight at the front, but then it was an illegal car technically. So yeah, there's a lot of potential names. Let's just leave it at that. All right, there's a lot of potential names. These were my bangers and clangers anyway. Yours. 1,615 of you voted. Banger drive, 24% of you gave it to Lando Norris. He just about scraped ahead of Lewis Hamilton in the banger drive. Which again, the drivers, Lewis, it was a great drive from Lewis, no doubt. It was a great drive from Lando to get the jump at the start and do what he could, just couldn't hang on to the tyres. 24% banger drive for Lando and Hamilton, 15% Sargent, 15% Verstappen. Clanger drive, 17% of you have given it to Charles Leclerc. Minton's barking, so I'm just making sure there's no one at the door, which there doesn't seem to be anyone at the door. He's still barking though. I don't know if you can hear him. What did Norris do? He jumped Leclerc at the start, led the race and briefly and kind of did what he could really. But yeah, Leclerc got 17% of the Clanger drive vote, which he put it on pole. It was the Leclerc effect that put him on pole. And yeah, no Gasly in the top 4 is a bit of a stinker, to be fair, for banger drives, because he had a great drive, did Pierre. But yeah, Ocon Clanger 15%, Piastri Russell as well. Ocon and Piastri both essentially took each other out with what was quite innocuous contact, wasn't it? It wasn't the craziest contact in the world. But it put a hole in Ocon's side pod, and it was more on Ocon for sure, I think, the contact. And then it did something to Piastri's radiator, I think, didn't it? Something like that. No, this one was definitely on Ocon for me. But I think, yeah, Stroll deserves some credit for sure. I think Gasly, again, deserves credit in banger drive. There are many suggestions, many names, and we won't all agree because this is a democracy. It's a democracy of thought. From pit lane to P7, yeah, Stroll. I mean, look, again, if Fernando hadn't pulled up with the damage, he almost certainly would have been banger drive because he would have been pit lane to P. Alonso was running ahead of Gasly, wasn't he? So he would have been pit lane to P6. Banger team, Williams, 34% of you gave it to Williams. Obviously benefited big time. And it shows, yeah, if you can even P11, P12, if you finish there, there's always a chance something else could happen. Those wooden plates. Clanger. TV direction clanger. Yeah. It wasn't the best, was it? Kind of throughout the weekend, actually. Even on the sprint, there was nothing to watch. And even the odd battles, like towards the back, with like Joe and Magnussen scrapping, like, show us, please, show us. Yeah, it wasn't the best TV direction for sure, not by any stretch. You'd think like there'd be some automated, like whenever a gap is within like a second, there's a prompt to be like, you might want to look at this. The old TV director, maybe. But yeah, banger team, 34% Williams, 28% Red Bull, 13% Mercedes, 10% McLaren, and then Clanger, Haas take it with 35% of the vote, which a lot of expectations going into this weekend for Haas, but it wasn't quite to be, was it? Hopefully, look, one FP1 session, that's all they had. Hopefully, they've got a lot of good data. They can go to Mexico, FP1, 2 and 3 full sessions. Although, is Behrman in the car for Mexico? I know he's getting in the car, but is he in the car for Mexico? I can't actually remember. Because I know he's doing 2, isn't he? Is he in the car? He is in the car for Mexico. That's probably not ideal for Haas that he's getting in the car at Mexico. Ideally, they'd maybe reschedule that and push it back. Maybe they will. I feel like maybe they should, but either way, we'll see. Clanger team, yeah, 35% Haas, 21% Aston Martin, 17 Mercedes, 16 Ferrari. Yeah, Aston's reliability's in a season where reliability across the board's been pretty good. Their reliability has stood out, I think, as being quite bad. Both, Lance and Fernando have had some stinky reliability at times. Bless them. There you go. You got to rebuild and come back stronger next year, Aston Martin. Truly. We'll get onto the planks. Don't you worry, Super Gino. Don't you worry. We will get onto the planks. Actually, yeah, because in terms of team by team, quick whiz through. Points, Williams, 3 points on the boards. Helps consolidate P7. It's looking good. It's not a done deal. It takes one crazy race, and that could change, but P7 is looking pretty strong. And well done, Logan. Hopefully he can kick on from this. He's got that kind of monkey off his back, you know what I mean? Like, hopefully he can crack on now. He's got the point. Hopefully psychologically that can help him out. Because he's gapped to Alex throughout the race, I think it was about 8 seconds or something by the end. Although I'm not sure if that was after Albon's penalty, 5 seconds. Either way, his race pace was pretty good, and he was pretty happy afterwards with his race pace. And there's a few little operational issues that he had, and getting into the pit lane and all that. But all in all, it was pretty good, pretty good. He needed this. But yeah, happy for Logan. AlphaTauri, again, great result for the team, for Yuki. Disappointing on Ricciardo's side. Obviously, yeah, the one stop wasn't the right choice, and he obviously clearly had damage. But again, given the Ricciardo we saw in Hungary, that was his first race in as well. I'm expecting good things from Daniel. I think the momentum of AlphaTauri right now is strong. I think Alfa Romeo and Haas should be worried. Should be worried for sure. And fastest lap as well, exactly. Yuki cooked. And he wants to be a chef. He wants his own little restaurant, doesn't he? And the man cooked. Alfa Romeo. Once again, it's one of those awful Romeo weekends. Oh, there's someone at the door. I'm going to play you an advert. Be right back. Right, it wasn't. Part of me was hoping it was the new laptop, but it's not back yet. It's your gift for watching an advert, unless you're premium. I've brought Minton back with me. Why don't you just sit down? Why are you standing up like that? There you go. He's literally been sleeping all day. All day. Yes. Alfa Romeo. A bit of an Alfa Romeo day. Nothing really to write home about at all. 5 cars didn't finish and still no points behind Hulkenberg as well, which is good from Haas's point of view, not so good from Alfa Romeo's point of view. Absent Romeo. Yeah. Absent Romeo is a good way of putting it. Whew. God, I'm out of breath. Shows you how unfit I am. What are you doing, buddy? Do you want to show off for the camera? Look, you're taking my focus, Minton. Usually it doesn't focus on me. Sorry, usually it focuses on me and not on him. But look, the camera knows what's up today. It's focusing on the sausage dog. The most important thing. Patrick, don't say that in front of him. You're allowed to think that, but don't say that in front of Minton. Right, Haas. Look, again, yes, it wasn't great, but I'm still cautiously optimistic. Hopefully they'll have got the knowledge they need to understand these upgrades and then crack on next weekend in Mexico. But it wasn't great. Hulkenberg was 11th. Magnussen had an absolute stinker again. Look, we'll see. We'll see. I feel I have more belief in Haas than Alfa Romeo right now because of the unknown of this upgrade. Whereas Alfa Romeo aren't bringing anything else, as far as I'm aware. Anyway, maybe that is copium. You know what? Maybe. And sometimes a healthy dash of copium is healthy in life, Kane. Sometimes it's just what you need. Get Otmar in Haas. I don't hate that. I don't hate that. That's the kind of team that I think Otmar would excel with, to be honest. Right. Next team, let's talk about Alpine. Again, Ocon had to retire. Ocon had a really good start. Gasly had a really bad start, actually, didn't he? Gasly went kind of backwards. But then Ocon had contact with Piastri, pretty innocuous. But yeah, he did kind of understeer, wash out wide into Piastri. Certainly was on Ocon, lap 1. You don't see them given. But yeah, he lost like 40 points of downforce and then retired in the end. Shame, because it would have been a big point scoring opportunity for Esteban, given the disqualifications as well. But either way, at least Pierre was there to capitalise and make the most of it. Good drive from Pierre. He was out-qualified Ocon as well, so he did a good job this weekend for sure. And also, yeah, didn't they came close, didn't they, going into turn 1, by the way? I know I haven't actually seen a replay of going into turn 1, but them two were side by side, weren't they? Which these two can't keep it clean, I swear to God. Which, I mean, again, Ocon has this kind of track record. Plus, when you add their, that they're, they've got something. They've got history, haven't they? They've got history, but I definitely don't. I don't think they made contact, but they were very close into turn 1. 5-second penalty for Ocon, if in doubt, right? Surely. Esteban, what were you playing at? Aston Martin. And one last thing on Alpine. Obviously, they've got all their new investors. It was the way Sky were kind of shoehorning in like Rory McIlroy and Anthony Joshua and all that this weekend in the coverage was a bit much. But you know what? Like, all these big names can only help bring attention, which they can hopefully deliver. Like, I've always liked this team, the Enstone-based team. Like, they're easy to. They've been easy to criticise as of late, but I want them to do well, of course. I love Esteban. He's one of my favourite drivers. Got a lot of time for Gasly as well. I think they're two really good drivers. It's been great to see Gasly kind of rebuild his stock after Red Bull in the same way it's been great to see Alex rebuild his stock after Red Bull. And, it feels like it's going to be very difficult to manage those two. And that's always been my biggest criticism of Esteban, that he's not the best teammate by any stretch. It's almost kind of George Russell-esque. I get similar kind of vibes. But yeah, it was very cringe with AJ. He called it Alpine as well. which was quite funny. He was like, Alpine. I mean, Alpine. Did you know that it's actually called Alpine, not Alpine? I'm like, yes, I knew that, AJ. But fair enough, Brundle wasn't going to correct him because, it's Anthony Joshua, so he'd just knock you out. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see with Alpine. They've got all these different, Juan Matters involved and Travis Kelce, and there's just loads of people. But whether it'll actually deliver anything is another matter entirely. So, yeah, we'll see. Cool. Aston Martin. I mean, look, they recovered from pit lane to points before Fernando DNF'd, not DQ'd. Test session won it. We'll see in Mexico what they do. Hopefully they'll have worked out enough about these upgrades to be confident to put them on the car in Mexico. But it's just sad, isn't it? It's a sad state of affairs. Aston farting. Yeah, absolutely. It's not good. It's not good. And that momentum again is just polar opposite of McLaren. McLaren are on the up, Aston are on the down. And yeah, it's going to take some serious, because they're the team who delivered the second quickest car at the start of the year. The same team that now has it's probably about on par with the Alpine, to be honest. I think Fernando's making a difference because, I think he's clear of the Alpine drivers and Lance for sure. But yeah, in terms of the actual car itself, it's not great, is it? Considering where they were. And again, Stroll wasn't able to capitalise earlier on in the year. He does a decent job here, but it's not as many points as this kind of drive would have rewarded him at the start of the year, But not everyone can finish first. Not everyone can win it all. You're right, buddy. You keep falling. Not very well balanced today, are you? Right, next team. Let's have a little talk about the Grazie Ragazzi merchants at Ferrari, shall we? For Leclerc to start on pole and finish 6th behind his teammate. In fact, his teammate then inherited a podium because then Leclerc got disqualified. Is pretty brazy. I don't know. It's pretty mad. The one stop obviously wasn't the one. Ferrari just kind of went for it. Mercedes were kind of going for it as well, and then kind of didn't go for it. Yeah, it's just they can't help but be Ferrari sometimes. Look, all teams make mistakes. When it's Ferrari, because of their track record, we're more likely to jump on Ferrari and be like, oh, it's because it's Ferrari. But also, yeah, I mean, it was Ferrari who put Charles on the wrong strategy, then swapped him around. Charles wasn't too happy about that. But then, Carlos was on the 2 stop. So Carlos didn't make any inroads on Lando, to be fair, though. So I said during the live stream, for what? In terms of spinning them around. That's a Kimi Räikkönen reference. It wasn't very good. Oh, that was a big yawn, mate. You catch that yawn? Didn't really put you in the mic right. You're being a little pest, so I'm going to let you go back to bed. All right? Well, back to bed you go. There we go. Busy being a sausage. Bless him. But yeah, not a good day from Ferrari. It's very hard to predict Ferrari where their pace is going to be on any given weekend. But yeah, pole to P6. Yet another pole position not converted to a race win for Charles Leclerc. His record stinks, which is more on the team as far as I'm concerned in terms of... the thing is, you've got the race team and then you've got the engineering team, which are two distinct things, and then you've got the driver. And I think Charles, you can usually rely on him to extract the most. Yes, he has a bozo moment in him for sure, but he kept it clean this weekend and was driving well. It's just a bit of a shame that he was on the wrong strategy. And ultimately, though, the whole the rule around the fact that you can't adjust your setup after FP1, well, after the sprint shootout, I think those rules maybe need to be looked at. Just the lack of part firme just meant that we weren't seeing any. You couldn't fix any problems that came up in the sprint. But Remains to be seen. Remains to be seen for old Ferrari. Back again. Bit of Carlos Sainz, pretty good race. He was quite happy. He did what he could. He only finished, 4 seconds behind Lando in the end. So, actually, not too bad, considering he was the Ferrari behind as well. If they'd have got Leclerc's strategy right and done the same strategy for Leclerc that they did Sainz, could have been better maybe. But yeah, not ideal. Let's talk now about McLaren. Obviously, Lando, a good start. He just said, tyre deg was his was what stopped him from really being able to deliver. It's one of them what could have been. I don't think Lando could have done too much more. Can you talk sometime about why Lando hasn't won yet? Well, I mean, when you look at Lando's F1 career, how often has he had he's never had the best car. He's at times had the second quickest on a given weekend, times the third quickest. I think a lot of this game is just opportunity, Gasly and Ocon have got wins. They didn't have the second, third best car when they got their wins. Not by any stretch. They had the fourth, fifth, sixth best car when they got their wins. So, you play to your outs, and sometimes the opportunities present themselves, sometimes they don't. This felt like a bit of an opportunity maybe, but the one stop wasn't going to work. Clearly, you're looking at it and you think, just stay on the hards, but obviously the team was right to pull Lando in, as much as it was a bit painful seeing Max kind of undercut him, go ahead, and then they pit Lando just after Max gets past him, and it's just like, ugh. But clearly, that was the right choice, because the one stop was not the one. And yeah, Piastri, bit of a stinky weekend for Oscar. I mean, again, he was unfortunate to be caught by Ocon, and that caused damage to his car, which ended up, slowing him down, and he retired from the race because he had a big gash in the side of his side pod as well. Look, I think this just goes to illustrate, right? There's a lot of hype around Oscar Piastri, and rightly so, because this is his rookie season, and he's won a sprint race, and he's been very good on numerous occasions. But Lando is still a good chunk ahead of him when you look at the total package. Lando's got that dog in him. Oscar's, the puppy's getting older, right? But he's still a little puppy, right? Little puppy. He's getting there. But no, Lando, I don't think could have done much more this weekend, to be honest. Good job in qualifying, good job in the race. Yeah, great start for Oscar as well. He made up 4 positions, didn't he? I remember seeing the graphic and he was up 4. So I was like, damn, he had a really good start. And that ended up being his downfall, because then that put him near Ocon. And as much as I love Esteban, that was on him. Who haven't we talked about? Mercedes, Bosch. Again, stinker from George relative to Lewis. Just didn't turn up this weekend, just didn't have the pace, didn't have the comfort in the car that Lewis seemed to have. I think Lewis, his quality shone through in this race. That star quality that he still has really did shine through in this race. For him to have a shot at being close to Max, yes, of course, Max had his braking issues and that, and obviously Mercedes was too low to the ground, as it turns out. But yeah, Lewis's star quality really showed yesterday, and yeah, it was a well fought P2, and it's a shame for him. It's a shame for Leclerc, but what happened. It is what it is. Russell needs to, just the consistency is a little bit all over the place for George at the minute. He's still finding his feet at that team, which when you're alongside Lewis Hamilton, it's a very much sink or swim seat, and many driver has gone alongside Lewis and sunk, and George does not want to do that. And if he does want to take on from Lewis, then he needs to make sure he doesn't sink and he does keep his head above water, because we saw that with Bottas and Kovalainen and there's Rosberg at times kind of it took a mentality switch for Rosberg to really pull that around and actually start fighting. But I think, yeah, Russell is way more. There are way more similarities to the Rosberg dynamic than there are to like the Kovalainen and Bottas for sure. And yeah, Mercedes letting themselves down procedurally once again. You know, the pit stops. You know, you can look at the pit stops in isolation. Yeah, 3.3. I know one of them was. I think the other one was like 2.8 or something. You know, that time, yes, would that time have made a difference if they're maybe knock half a second off each of them, which is very doable. You know, he's potentially puts him a bit closer to Max, but Lewis did lock up on the hards, didn't he, as well? Lost a chunk of time. There's a lot of little things you can look back to, but ultimately a team like Mercedes, there's no excuse for their procedures not to be absolutely tip-top, and they are not, and they continue to be. Is it 3.4 and 3.6? Oh, my bad. I thought they did a 2.8, but I must be thinking of George. I think George maybe did a 2.8 then. 3.3 and a 3.6. That is unacceptable. That is unacceptable, Mercedes. That is terrible. Yeah, it was 2.8 for George. That's so bad. That is awful. And yeah, look, Verstappen had a 3.3 and a 2.8. That's why I think I'm getting a 2.8 from Verstappen then. But George also had a 2.8. Like, come on, Mercedes. Like, that's where, I don't know, man. It feels like the excuse for those kind of pit stops and all that to not be on it. I mean, McLaren have jumped up massively. Look at Ferrari's pit stops this year. Like, that's not a team known for efficiency, yet Ferrari have been delivering pretty decent pit stops this year. And, yeah, when you're fighting for a win, we will never know. Maybe that would have made a difference. In the end, yeah, he would have been disqualified regardless. But, yeah, damn. Crazy. McLaren did a 2 flat, didn't they? I know someone did a 2 flat in the race. I can't remember exactly who, though. I think it was McLaren. But, yeah, Mercedes. I've heard this for a while from Mercedes fans, you know, talking about, you know, strategy and pit stops and that just not being good enough. And I think it feels like the race team isn't ready. The engineer, look, I said this when I was chatting on doing the last lap podcast, right? I think the engineering team I believe in, right? Allison's back in place at Mercedes. I believe that they can engineer a car to fight with Red Bull next year. I do. I believe in that side. I don't believe in the race team because I think strategy-wise and I think pit stop-wise, they're just not good enough. And as good as the drivers are, I'm worried that they will trip over each other. That's what I'm concerned about. There's a clear 1-2 at Red Bull. There's a clear 1-2 at Aston Martin. There's not a clear 1-2 at Mercedes because George can be close to Lewis. He can be quicker than Lewis. He's too close, you know. When there's a championship on the line, all gloves are off, you know, every driver for themselves. They aren't as polished as you'd expect for their heritage. Yeah, you're right, Kev. And again, I think maybe complacency over time. You know, it's like Red Bull could allow themselves to become complacent, couldn't they? You know, I mean, Max had 2 not great pit stops, let's say a 3.3 and a 2.8, and they still won the race. And Max had brake issues, and they still won the race. They were complacent yesterday with their pit stops, Red Bull. They were literally complacent. They weren't great, and they still won the race. Mercedes kind of, you know, Red Bull for years were the ones catching up, and they had to be on it with these procedures to actually get the chance to win. And Mercedes kind of had to fulfill that role yesterday, and they didn't quite do it. So, and yeah, Toto might say that, Hamza, but I think this has been a problem for a while at Mercedes. And no, I didn't watch the West Ham game. It was very sad. But Aston Villa are great. Aston Martin are great. All the Astons. Right, and then finally, Red Bull Racing. Max wins. Wasn't happy with the brakes. Still managed to bring it home. Did we have any confirmation on what exactly the issue was? Because, you know, was it just he just didn't like the setup of the brakes, or was there actually a problem? Like, Max is so intuitive with that car. There must have been some kind of issue, I would have thought, surely. He thinks the tyres, really. Don't talk to me, I'm in the corners. Yeah, look, he was clearly struggling with that car, which, you know, something with brake pad wear, yeah, brake degradation. And he wasn't having the issue on Saturday. He said it was a lot worse on Sunday than Saturday. So, yeah. Look, he still brought it home. That's the thing. This is what Max is capable of doing. You know, again, you look at his teammate in a car where he recovers to, P5 on the road. And Max can, come back from P6 and win the race with clearly some kind of issue, because there's no way he was managing that gap, not with how close Lewis got at the end. So, yeah, fantastic job from Max Verstappen once again. And yeah, Checo, you know what, actually, to be credit to Checo, the actual race itself was better than it's been for a while. It's still not saying much, but I mean, this kind of Checo performance is kind of akin to what you kind of should, the minimum, I think this is a bare minimum performance from Checo, considering recently that it's been below minimum. I think this was okay. It's okay. But yeah, Max won from P6, Checo P5 on track anyway, from P9, qualified behind both Alpines, which is not great. And he was stuck behind George for ages, wasn't he, Checo? He was moaning a lot about George on the radio. But yeah, very meh. Very meh. All right, finally, I guess we have to... Like I said, I was going to keep this podcast nice and short, and we've gone for 47 minutes. I haven't even talked about the big talking point of the race, post-race anyway, which are the planks. So, to anyone who has been living under a rock, I'm sure you'll know what's happened, right? Lewis and Charles both disqualified for excessive wear on the planks under their cars. Now, the planks have been on F1 cars since, I think, 94, to stop cars running too low because it can be dangerous. Was it actually something to do with... Was it directly related to Senna's crash? Or was it 96? I thought it was 94. I'm sure I read it was 94 somewhere. I'm probably wrong. But was it... I don't know if it was directly to do with Senna's... Yeah, it was. To stop them running too low for safety reasons. And obviously, that was many a year ago. And, 30 years ago. But yeah, so what they do post-race is that cars will be checked at random. This is the standard procedure after a race, and 4 cars were picked. Max, Lando, Lewis and Charles were the 4 cars chosen. I don't know how random that was. I guess, the fact that the top 3, the podium sitters are all picked, but then Charles, who finished P6, but then qualified first. I don't actually know how random that is. Random top finishes. Yeah, I'm not too sure. But either way, they're picked at random, checked, and in this instance, 2 of them had excessive wear. Now, obviously, Cote is very bumpy. Only 1 practice session to set the cars up. And yeah, it's one of those cut and dry rules. If you've gone over, then you're disqualified. And that's it. They picked 3 random drivers from the top 3. Oh, very good. Very good. It is random chosen before the race. No way that's random. They just picked 4 cars closest to the FIA garage. Well, look, maybe, right? Now, what this does mean, which I understand that people will be frustrated by this, because only 4 cars were picked. 2 of those cars, so 50% of the cars tested, had illegal levels of plank wear, right? The other 16 cars weren't even checked. Now, what are the chances that at least one of those other 16 cars also had illegal wear on its plank? Pretty high, all right? Given, again, 1 practice session for everyone, so it's hard to dial in an exact ride height that is the perfect compromise to not wear it too much on a bumpy track. Could Sainz have had an illegal plank wear? Could Russell? Maybe. We'll never know. The thing is, look, I get that F1 cars are so complicated. It's impossible to check the legality of every single car in every possible measurable way. Now, to check the plank, if it's a typical thing that's checked after every race, that if it is failed is grounds for disqualification, then yeah, it's pretty hard to... I can imagine how, if you're a Hamilton-Leclerc fan, not so much a Leclerc fan, because it was a pretty rubbish result anyway, to be honest, but especially as a Hamilton fan, especially if he'd won the race. Like, I would not have wanted to be Joe Bauer. Look, if Lewis had won this race, being Joe Bauer, looking at the underside of that Mercedes, being like, that's worn too much. Oh no, that would have been shocker. And Rex, I have seen that photo, and I don't think that tells the full story. I know the photographer did post after that saying like he's got lots of other images where you can see the Red Bull like rubbing against the floor. Like this is millimeters. This is millimeters of difference. Like, because these cars are so dependent on running them low to the ground, literally raising your ride height a millimeter will make a noticeable difference, and so will lowering it a millimeter. But yeah, so we'll never know if the other 16 cars, because they've already been packed up and they're on their way to Mexico. With a back-to-back, this is the first of a triple header weekends that we've just had. To check every single car does feel like, oh, okay, maybe that's not doable. But then I don't know. Do I think that Formula One could formulate a system where every single car gets a quick plank check? Do I think that's feasible? Just check the 10 points cars. Very doable. Yeah, but then I suppose if any have failed, then cars from outside the points would then get points, and then you have to check them as well. Like, do I think it's possible? Do I think it's doable? I mean, I'm sure it probably is, right? I reckon it probably is, given, these planks they're a standardized part, correct? The part is standardized. And look, again, this track is particularly bumpy. Do we have other bumpy tracks? We do have, Baku's pretty bumpy. A lot of the street circuits are very bumpy. Look, I struggle to believe there's not a way that, even it's, when you see all the cars pulled up in the, like after the race, they're all pulled up in the area that they pull up in or whatever. And you just have someone go around, right? I'll go under. But I guess you got to get under the car to then check do you create a tool that can easily check the plank? There must be some solution, because it does feel a bit sketchy that, maybe Carlos Sainz had an illegal plank and he got a podium. We'll never know. Lasers. Use technology. Technology is the difference, right? All this AWS Insights, right? On Amazon, get an Amazon branded like little laser pen. I'll do. Like, I'm sure that's what all I'm saying, right? I'm not suggesting a solution. I'm not that intelligent. I don't have the answers, but I'm saying there must be someone more intelligent than me who can come up with a solution for that. Surely. They don't check planks though. But I don't feel that's too much to ask, If you're going to disqualify cars over it, then it's kind of quite a big deal, because they might have well just stayed home, Come all this way, do all this race, almost win with Lewis. Yeah, Ferrari messed it up, but they still qualified on pole. And it's like, oh no, you disqualified because of the plank. Well, what about his plank? Oh no, we just picked him at random. So, but people say like it's like a random drugs test you get in other sports, right? And yeah, okay. I mean, if you drug tested every single athlete every single time, that would be a bit much. But we have 24 races a year, and there's one main race, and you can just check each car, all 20 cars after each race. Like, it's not the same, is it? Like, the amount of times footballers play games and the squads and the sides of squads. Like, come on. It's not quite. Russell, I bet, had an illegal. Yeah, who do we reckon had the most illegal plank? I reckon Logan's plank was absolutely. It was disgustingly illegal, I reckon. But we'll never know. You can't claim that I'm wrong. You can't claim that I'm right. I can't claim that I'm right. But I reckon Logan had the most illegal plank. Yuki, yeah. Yuki was on that fastest lap. He was hunkering down on that plank. That was giving him extra. He was taking a shave off of it. I'm carrying that AlphaTauri hard. Yeah. I mean, that's the way I see it. It's a shame. Again, I'm just glad that Lewis didn't win the race, because that would have been an absolute cluster bomb online, and I can't be asked for that. But there we go. So I still managed to do a full-length podcast, 56 minutes. I usually go a bit longer post-race, and the laptop's alive, and I'm still talking to you. So thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for taking the time. I'm going to wrap it up now. Don't worry, Tim. I'll wrap it up. Don't you worry, Tim. I'll wrap it up. This will be going out on audio only, so if you're listening, don't forget to 5-star Apple Podcast, Spotify, all that. Like the stream on YouTube. And the secret word is... Oh, what's the secret word today? The secret word is Puma, because I've got my old dirty Puma suedes here. I love these shoes. This is a great wearable classic. Puma. There you go. Puma. Puma in the comments. Puma, however you pronounce it. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for taking the time. I'm going to try and get my video done. Probably going to be out tomorrow. Let's see if this laptop holds on, because my new laptop's coming tomorrow. But yeah, we'll be fine. Sorry, I almost burped then. Thank you all for coming. Ciao, adios. I'm done. Have a good day. Stay hydrated. Be good. Be well. Be happy. Bye. And thank you to all super chatters, and thank you Poppy, Moon, One, David, Liam, Ashit, Rex, Thomas, Surf Sauce, Ewan, Easy Cure, David, Charmander, Alpine, Carlos, Seamus, Alexis, Eggy, Kane, Alita, PP. Bye.